Hi guys, Ron here and welcome to the workshop. Today I'm going to address a couple of recurring questions regarding wheel and tire systems for different disciplines. So I'm going to explain my experiences with my wheel sets, starting with the most simple and obvious choice, mountain biking. Here of course I use a tubeless wheel and tire setup. This is the MV-M525 mountain bike rim, which has wide hookless beads, pretty wide internal width, and on top of it is a Schwalbe or Schwalbe tubeless easy tire, filled with sealant of course. With mountain biking, it's pretty much the obvious choice nowadays. It'd be pretty weird to still run tubes, or even weirder if you ran tubulars on a mountain bike, because well, here with the low pressures, higher volumes, and good puncture protection of the tires, the systems are very refined, and yeah, it's a no-brainer pretty much. Then on the other side of the narrower knobbies, it's a bit different. So these are my cross bikes. I've just come back from a cross race where I snatched my first podium in the elite category, so pretty happy with that. Last year I was racing on tubeless wheels. I had two tubeless wheel sets and they were good, although in the back of my mind I always had that little bit of a doubt from slow leaks, pinch flatting them. They were a bit harsh, they were a bit heavy. So this year I switched to tubulars, and I don't really think they've had them. Well, my results were much better this year, but I don't think that's entirely down to the tubulars. Maybe it's a factor, but I'm just more confident in them, and they're more supple, more comfortable. Although my first two races I still run on a tubeless wheel set with dry tires, because it was super dry, hard packed and dusty, and I don't have a tubular wheel set with a dry tire mounted on. So now for the wetter races, it's November, almost December now. I don't think I'm ever going back to the dry tire, so it's tubulars from now on. Of course, tubulars are known for the hassle, you know, preparing the rim, gluing the tire. If you get a puncture, it's a mess. In cross you don't really get punctures all that often. The tubulars are now very refined, supple, with good puncture protection. You don't even have to put this protecting material on the sidewalls so they don't disintegrate from the mud. But for road use, I think tubulars are pretty limited now. If you don't run alpine descents on rim brakes or race cobbled races, I don't think there's any advantage to racing tubulars on the road. Some people say they have better grip. I've tried them all basically, and I seriously doubt that, because if you have the same kind of tire compound and tire construction on a Clincher, you get the same thing. And of course tubulars, and it's not what I think, it's just pure fact. If someone tried to object, it's just tested independently multiple times over and over again. Clinchers are more aerodynamic and are faster rolling, so yeah, outside of cross and these very specific applications, I don't think they're relevant anymore. But yeah, we'll still have them. There are people who like them, nothing wrong with that. Although pretty inconvenient on the road. And now for the part of the subject which is a bit more controversial, I would say, and not that straightforward. So these are my road wheel sets. I've ridden tubulars for a pretty long time. I've ridden tubeless more recently. And I've ridden Clinchers, regular tube type Clinchers in between. So what's the deal here? What are my experiences? This is the wheel set that I mentioned. I ran my first 2 cross races on this wheel set. This is the 4.5 ARs from MV. They're super wide and they worked well. Now I have a super fat road tire on, which is tubeless again. So yeah, this is the wheel I use in my road bike. It's the new MV 5.6, and the reason I changed from the 4.5 that I had earlier is because it's now tubeless ready. And why did I want that in a road wheel set? Because to be honest, the previous 4.5s were pretty damn amazing wheels. The thing is, I always ran latex tubes with my Clinchers and Vittoria Corsa tires, so super supple, very grippy, very nice handling. But the latex tubes are just a bit finicky, and I don't mean that you can puncture them easily, because I never had, in 20 or so thousand kilometers, I've never had a single puncture on a Clincher wheel with a latex tube. So I don't think that's the issue. The issue for me is the manipulation. You know, you have to be super careful with the installation. I had some valve failures, so the bond between the valve itself and the tube just got weak and it started leaking. And yeah, I had 3 or 4 of these happening, 10 minutes before the start of the race, so that was pretty nervous. So yeah, the problem with tubes for me is you can get pinch flats, you can get overheating issues if you're on rim brakes. But on the other hand, when you just have a regular non-race specific Clincher with a vulcanized outer layer and a regular butyl tube, then they're not the fastest, they're not the most comfortable or grippy, or not the most puncture proof, but they're easiest to set up and change or repair in case of a puncture or a failure. So if you want the convenience, then yeah, definitely the Clinchers are a good option. Tubeless, however, why did I go all tubeless now on my road wheels? Well, as I mentioned, this wheel is kind of an all-rounder. I put gravel tires on it, I put cross tires on it, I can put any tires on that I want, and they do all of that fine. My other wheel sets, these are more aero and race focused, more speed focused. And the reason you find this is because manufacturers also have realized the advantages of tubeless in terms of aerodynamics and rolling resistance. So this is the Roval 321 time trial disc, and also another crop of newer disc wheels. They're not even made in tubular format anymore because they're just slower. Of course you gain a bit of weight, but aero always beats weight, or at least in the most conditions. So these are my MV 7.8s. I use this for the time trial bike and the road bike. 5.6 for the road bike, disc obviously for the time trial bike. And the reason I go tubeless here, as I mentioned, speed, mainly speed, because tubeless setups are the fastest. Then if you talk about grip and handling, it depends on the tire. You can see on the disc I have the Corsa Speed. I get this question tons of times, so I'm repeating it here. I use the Corsa Speed for time trials because it's fast. In fact, it's not just fast, it's the fastest tire there is, particularly in a tubeless setup and particularly in the new wider 25mm size. But for road racing and general riding, it's not very suitable because it's super thin, not very puncture proof. The layer of rubber is super thin, so you can get mostly 2000 kilometers out of it on the rear, so not much if you're training properly. And it's not very grippy, so I haven't had actually too many people saying this or experiencing this, but I slid, I had scary slides in road races on a course speed or in criteriums, which I wasn't happy about, and the other riders on more grippy tires, slower tires, didn't have any problems. So yeah, that's why I don't really use the speed outside of time trials anymore. What I use for general riding are the Schwalbe Pro ones. These are a good option. The reason I use them, they're grippy, they're fairly durable, they're fairly resistant and resilient, they're fairly comfortable. They're just a good all-rounder, and I can get them for cheap. That's also a factor. But really, I'm really looking forward to the regular Corsa. From what I've heard, it's going to be made in a tubeless format in spring 2019, so looking forward to that. That should be a really sweet tire, but until then, the Schwalbe Pro one's excellent option. So what are the downsides of tubeless systems that, and particularly on the road side, many people struggle actually with this, and I have as well. So no system is perfect. Certainly with the 7.8 and tubeless in general, with the higher pressures in the road tire, smaller volume, you can get slow leaks, you can get leaks at the valve. The rim has to be super tight most of the time on the rim bead, so it's hard to get off and on. Sometimes even impossible with using just spare hands on the side of the road. And then it's very hard to put a tube in. So definitely isn't perfect. The setup is more finicky. It's not so easy to change the tires. It's sometimes messy with the sealant. You need to top up the sealant every now and then. So definitely you have to keep on top of that. But from what I've experienced, if you get it right once, then you don't really need to do much aside from checking the tires, sometimes putting some sealant in, and it will just hold the air fine. So no problems with that in the long run. The initial setup and yeah, that's a bit more tricky. So that's why I use tubeless. Another reason I have is the puncture protection. When on clinchers, I always carry a repair kit, but I get punctures so rarely that with tubeless I don't anymore, because, well, the chance is even slimmer. So yeah, it makes my bike and my life a bit easier. And also, now that all of them are tubeless, I don't need to carry all those tubes, all those spares. It's much more unified and of course faster all around. So there you have it. These are my experiences with different tire and tire and wheel systems. None of them is perfect just yet, but tubeless seems to be really taking over and improving a lot in terms of dependability and the tires and the weights. So if you want a future and you want to go fast, that's definitely the way. If we race cross, tubulars are still the way to go, I think. And if you want super easy convenience and, well, having a tire that's easy to service and repair, then still the Clincher wins out in this regard, and they still can be pretty fast. Okay, now if you want to have or see more about my bikes themselves, not just the wheels and tires, then don't forget to tune into the channel and subscribe. It's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.